when you look at the fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was acquired by the Thunder because Kawhi Leonard, after winning the championship with the Toronto Raptors, decided to come back home here to California, Southern California, and said, I'll come to the Clippers, as the story goes, if you also acquire somebody else to come with me, and I choose Paul George. And I guess Sam Presti kind of figured out all of that. And the shrewd general manager of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I believe we do have the details of the trade. He popped it up on our Monday show.
Do I have to see it again?
I have it here in front of me.
Sorry, I know it.
A first rounder in the 2021 draft. The 2022 draft turned into Jalen Williams. A first rounder in 2023 with a pick swap in 2023. A first rounder in last year's draft. A pick swap in this year's draft for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And a first rounder in next year's draft. They're going to have another first rounder from the Clippers in next year's draft for the guy who's the MVP of the league right now, celebrating a championship the day before the draft in which they have a pick swap with the Clippers. And the reason why I bring all this up is Kawhi said, I want Paul George. Paul George goes. The two of them, as we all know, are not together anymore. And that's kind of caused me to wonder the question that I asked Jay Billis, and I will ask Brian Windhorst shortly, as I asked Billis yesterday, is this the end of the super team era in the NBA? Or has it already been dead? If you recall, that was Draymond Green's response, right? After the Warriors won one of their titles, and I believe was LeBron tweeting out something about the super teams or something like that, right? I remember it was early on in our world here on the Rich Eisen Show that's turning 11.
Yeah, Cavs and Warriors seemingly played every year.
Right, and so he says, you started the super team, bro.
You started the super team, bro.
And we have to wonder, is it officially dead or has it just been dead for a while? Because the Thunder on Sunday night became the 9th different franchise in Adam Silver's dozen years now as commissioner of the NBA to win the title. So in Adam Silver's first 12 years as commissioner in the NBA, 9 different franchises have won it all. And if you want to just bleed it into David Stern's last year as commissioner, when the Heat won, it's 10 different franchises in the last 13 NBA seasons to win the trophy. The only repeat champs are the Warriors. They won it 4 times in the tenure of Adam Silver.
And I saw that graphic. Did you see how many teams won it during the 30 years of David Stern?
8 different
Crazy
teams in the 30 years of David Stern. Now, you can go back and forth about, is it the way the league is constructed? Is it the way the league is run? The way that teams go about their business?
There was expansion in there.
Well, there was also Michael Jordan in there.
Wow. And,
so that
and Magic and Kareem and Isaiah.
That prevented a lot of other teams from going places. I think certainly in the era of Jordan, ask a Jazz, Knicks, Rockets
Pacers,
fan, right?
Yeah.
Ask them all.
Blazers.
Or at the end of the, Bad Boys era, Pistons fans. He blocked a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But it's the Thunder, Celtics, Nuggets, Warriors, Bucks, Lakers, Raptors, Cavs, Spurs, and Heat. In the last 13 seasons, 10 different franchises had their players lay hands on the Larry O.B. And then I did this for the David Stern years. Heat, Mavs, Pistons, Spurs, Rockets, Bulls, Lakers, Celtics. That's it. And, were the Lakers and the Celtics the original super teams? Can you say that? Right?
They weren't constructed in the way modern
such
super teams were.
But when you look at the result,
when you look at it, when you walk through, say, Springfield, Massachusetts, in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and you see, oh, there's McHale, there's Bird, there's
Chief, there's DJ, there's Walton, all Celtics, and then
there's
Russell
Jordan, and there's Pippen, and is Rodman in there? He should be.
Rodman is.
Oh, yeah,
right. Rodman's
Okay,
off.
I'm just making sure. You know, oh, there's Magic, there's Kareem.
big game.
But it wasn't friends on vacation being like, let's
That's
all go to some
correct.
spot and play together.
Now that was the Miami Heat that did that for the first time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then everybody started to try and do the same thing with Durant joining a Warriors team that really wasn't super teamed up. They just drafted really well, right?
Yeah, that was their thing.
And then
Wasn't like they
Durant joined.
went to seek out these players.
And wasn't that the moment where LeBron complained about, in some way, shape, or form, about Durant joining and, hey, you start, you. That may have been the genesis of it, of that drop. But is the super team era over? You know, we're taking a look at this free agency period. Durant just gets hired by the Rockets.
Hired. That's an interesting way. I've never really heard anybody put it that way.
He's hired to be the 37-year-old gunslinging adult in the room for these kids, right? The Celtics draft both Tatum and Brown and then start building the team around them. Derek White becomes a Hall of Famer out there. Yesterday, they just sent Jrue Holiday packing to Portland, who acquires him for the second time in 2 years.
That's right.
Holiday, if you recall, had a way station in Portland for a split second before the Celtics snagged him in that deal that involved Dame Lillard as well, right? And Anthony Simons going now to the Celtics. They get younger at the position. He's also an expiring contract.
Good three-point shooter.
So I kind of dig that trade for both teams.
Seems like a win-win.
But my point is that the Celtics aren't going to go into the free agent market and try and add somebody to make this a super team. They might not be able to afford it. They're already on, their umpteenth apron.
Yeah, they're looking to shed salary at this
Correct.
point. Yeah.
Because maybe the aprons, the way things are set up, and you get to the second apron and things get incredibly expensive. Teams are avoiding that, and that's potentially preventing a super team from happening. So you've got to draft wisely and then shop free agency and say, okay, let's get Alex Caruso. Let's get Isaiah Hartenstein and add him to Chet Holmgren. Let's add Caruso to all these young backcourt players that we have. Let's put this together with blanketing perimeter defense, collapsing in the paint defense with some shot blockers of note, and a kid that we're going to acquire because somebody else in the final throes of the super team era try to create their one of their own at the behest of one of the stars that they were acquiring in the free agent market in Kawhi. Would you agree the super team era is dead in the NBA and this is the final nail? Who's creating a super team?
Sort of. Houston's trying to. See, their thing is like the way the super team was previously constructed, it was three players and then some really talented parts around the three guys. Now,
that they could afford.
Now, yeah, they can afford. Now it's a two-player super team creation with, highly skilled role players around two guys instead of three. It just looks a little bit different now, but dead. I don't know.
Yeah.
Boston added Porzingis and Jrue Holiday to go with those two guys. That, in a way, was a super team. Even though it wasn't free agency, it was trades.
Now, the super team would be for the Rockets if I don't know if this is true or not, what comes across my Threads timeline. Is Harden in play?
Ooh, to go back to Houston?
I saw that the Rockets have an opportunity to add some massive salaried players.
Well, I saw Jaylen Brown still being
right.
rumored for that as well.
And that Harden can leave the Clippers due to some option.
That's news to me.
Now that's a super team. If they acquire James Harden or Jaylen Brown
Durant,
and they still have
They're-
Sengun and Van Vliet and Ime re-signed, that's a super team.
and ownership that's like, bring on the aprons because we want our own rally and parade. I just don't see it anymore. You just don't see it much anymore. And
I wonder if that has to do too, also, TJ, with so much talent in the league. Whereas before, there weren't as many superstars. So when you kind of grouped a few together, you're like, oh, that's a super team. They have 3 future Hall of Famers. Now there's so much talent in the NBA.
That's
Skill
interesting.
level is super high right now, pretty much across the board. Every team has a outstanding franchise player, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like the old guy, but that argument is skill-wise, players aren't as good now as they were, in our time in the 90s and the early.
You don't think so?
Athleticism is higher.
Athleticism, yeah.
But like skills, you're talking guys 4 years in college. All of our stars went to college for multiple years and kind of hone their craft before just jumping into the league. So I don't know.
How about this one? And then we'll ask Brian Windhorst so we can be on time for him. How about this one? Because I'm flying back with Coop from Fanatics Fest, sitting next to each other. We're watching the game on the screen back, or the seat screen, right? And just one fast break, pull up 3-pointer after another, and he turns to me and goes, "See, this is what I have a problem with the NBA." And I'm like, "What?"
He said that?
I swear to you. He said,
I'm not
everybody,
even surprised, though.
everybody just throws up threes.
Yeah.
And so if that is, in fact, now the way the game is played, and I think we can agree, right?
It is.
I mean, the Celtics are hey, just keep hoisting three. You make half of them, we win.
Keep shooting. Keep shooting.
We miss 75% of them, we lose. You know what I mean? Like that's the way it is.
Pretty much.
And so you just find that sweet spot. If we make 30, I'm sure Brad Stevens figured it out. We make 32% of our threes on a game night, we're going to win.
Yep.
Or I'm just picking a number.
38.
Right.
Who knows?
And so many people shoot threes now. What do you need a super team for?
But
Right. If you all you got to do is just get somebody who's really supremely great and then have everybody start hoisting threes and make them. I mean, maybe that's it, the way that you construct a roster. I don't know. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.